Corona Day 3 from Jerusalem. I wanted to start out talking today about the sage of the Talmud, actually not of the Talmud, of the Mishnah, Rav Shimon. And when asked about what the best characteristic a person could have, he answers haro et hanolad, which means literally to see the thing that will be born, to see what's going to happen. Now, some people, many people maybe in my community, would say that Rav Shimon had this mystical greatness, and therefore he was able to anticipate the future. Me being a rationalist, and I think Rav Shimon being a rationalist, the way to understand that is in an Aristotelian way, and I know that sounds very fancy. But Aristotle has this idea that if you know enough about the way the world works, if you have enough experience with it, you can not only answer the question, what happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, but why things happened. That is, you can see the causal relationship between things, and that's what Rav Shimon could do. That he's enough experience of the world, and he had the ability to extrapolate from that experience, to pull out from that experience, so he could anticipate not what would happen necessarily, because Rav Shimon is not a scientist, but what probably will happen. And Aristotle's whole emphasis, and it's just interesting, especially in light of our conversations from yesterday, that the poet. The poet knows this as well as anyone, the good poet, why things happen. So for Aristotle, there's the sense that I can anticipate things, again, not certainly, but probabilistically. And with that knowledge, I can alter my behavior. Of course, I'm talking about the coronavirus and the extent to which so many people are in denial. Now, actually, I don't think they're in denial about what will happen or what they think might happen, but there's such enormous fear about acknowledging the situation that we're in. As my colleague Daniel Feldman said yesterday, this is like wartime, and suddenly we're just in the midst of it. So we can't be surprised if people are in denial about it. Daniel said, they asked people during the Holocaust, after the Holocaust, why didn't you leave? And Daniel said so beautifully, because I was in the middle of my life. I was working, I was writing a book, I was falling in love. All of those things, right? Which prevent us from fully acknowledging where we are, and the fear that we have only adds to that and makes that much more powerful. I know in my community, people are in denial craziness that they're sending their kids to primary school. And they're going and learning in yeshiva in great numbers. And there's this implicit, I do know, it's this implicit, it's fear and arrogance that are combined, that somehow this is not going to affect us. And then there's this mystical idea also at the back of our mind, that the great Torah sage whose name has been used in relationship to this status quo about kids going to school, that somehow he's going to come and cure you if you get sick. I say it in the name of the sage, because I don't think the sage himself, he's 92 years old, so I think people who are using him for their own purposes. But that's a very extreme example, and it's very easy for the rest of us to say, oh, those religious people are crazy. But there are people going for walks in the park. There are people I know said, I got a great dinner reservation yesterday. That was last night in America. And it was very civilized. Civilized. The virus doesn't care if you have good manners. It doesn't make a difference to the virus. What are other things that I've heard? Oh, today a family in my neighborhood said, let's go strawberry picking. After all, it's not crowded. Again, it's like this desire to embrace normalcy, which is really just pushing off the urgency of the situation we're in. It's not our fault. But there is that importance of trying to get people around you, your community, your family, whatever, to understand you're not being hysterical. In fact, Anthony Fauci in America said, if people think you're over-preparing, you're doing the right thing. If people think you're hysterical, you're actually doing the right thing. Don't be hysterical, but just do it. The thing is that the people who are in denial will tell the people who are warning them that they're hysterical, because That's just their defense mechanism. There's a concept in the Gemara that you're not choshesh for a miut, which means you're not you don't worry about something in determining probabilities and determining things that might happen. You don't worry about the outlier, just because it's not important. However, you are choshesh for a miut when it comes to life and death. So if you have any doubts, or you think for a minute, right, maybe it is okay to go and hang out with my friends, or maybe it is okay to sneak out and hang out with my girlfriends down the block. Nobody in my family is doing that. But think about that, because we don't know how this is going to end. That's also built into Ro'at Hanolad. There's the humility of saying, I might be wrong. And in this time of real crazy stress, it's okay to worry about that small possibility. Take care of your family, take care of your community. Well, that's Jerusalem. That's how things look here now, day 3, coronavirus.